Yo, what is up guys? So in today's video I'm going to be going over the gun tier list for season 13. Now I know there's probably like only 2 weeks of the season left, but I wanted to make this video so you guys can get that, that last, few games in before the season ends. And I wanted to let you guys know the best guns that you guys should be using and the guns that, you probably shouldn't be using. And there will be a video out soon for season 14 because I know some guns are going in and out of the care package, some guns are getting nerfed, etc, etc. There's going to be an entire video on that when the new season comes out. But other than that, let's get right into the video. Alright, so in D tier. Now, D tier guns are guns that you shouldn't be using. If you're using these guns, then I highly recommend that you don't use these guns. But before I start with the tier list, I think that any gun can be used well if you're extremely good at it. But unless you're like a god at the gun, like you hit every single shot, you don't miss a single shot with that gun, I wouldn't recommend using the bad guns. And maybe recommend using the A tier, S tier guns, and maybe some B tier guns. But obviously it depends on the rounds and it depends on, the maps and stuff too, so I'll be going over that as I go throughout the tier list. Alright, so in D tier is the Eva. Now, I think the Eva is the worst shotgun in the game, and although it's cheap, I think it only costs like 150, its damage is terrible. Like, I'd rather get a white Mosem than that. It probably does more damage and more accurate. And most likely, you're not going to be getting that close to the enemy. Like, the only reason why the Eva is, decent is because it's, because of its close range abilities. And in arenas, unless you're in a map like Drop Off, you're not going to be having that close combat. And that's why I don't recommend buying the Eva at all. Unless you have a purple Mozambique and you want extra ammo for your Mozambique, buying an Eva is a good option because I think you're going to get like an extra like 50 ammo that you can use. But other than that, it's terrible. If you need more ammo for your Mozambique, you can buy it as a secondary, but that's around it. Like, I'd rather get any other shotgun, any other close range gun than the Eva. Alright, so next up in D tier is the P2020. Now, this gun is a gun that you get automatically. Like, if you only bought one gun, you get the P20 or the Mozam, automatically. But I would probably pick the Mozambique every day of the week because the Mozambique does more damage. It can do 45 damage on like the P20 that does 18. And yeah, the P20 could be good. Like if you're buying an R tier 1, then a P20 as a secondary is good. But I mean, you're not gonna be upgrading that P20 to level 2. The max I would upgrade it is to level 1 and to maybe get that one times to get that one time so you can actually see, because the iron sight is kind of terrible on the P20, but still, it's pretty simple why the P20 is bad. Like, it's an alright secondary, but it's nothing to upgrade, and that's why it goes in D tier. Now, next up is the Bocek. Now, this is actually pretty strange, but I think the Bocek is a terrible gun in arenas because it's only good from range, but it's terrible close range. And the bad thing is it's expensive. Like, the Bocek, it costs 500 to get, and then it costs like another 200 or 250 to upgrade to level 2, or no, level 1. So I think that's actually terrible because you have to upgrade it 2 times and it's expensive. Well, I could get a 30-30 for 550 crafting and have a bruiser on it already from round 1. Like, I think it's just expensive. It's terrible. I'd rather get any marksman than the Bocek. And it's only good at range. And close range, it's terrible. Like, the shadow caps is not that strong either. It shoots very slow. Overall, I don't think it's a gun that you should be getting in arenas. Of course, in Battle Royale, it's totally different, but in arenas, it definitely belongs in D tier. Alright, so next up is the C tier. Now, C tier guns are the guns that are not terrible, like as bad as the D tier guns, but they're pretty bad, and you should probably not use these guns unless it's in a specific map or it's early round. So we have the L-Star. Now, L-Star you should not be using in arenas, whether it's early round, late round, never. The L-Star used to be really good back in Season 10, used to be broken, but now the L-Star is just really bad. It just has a slow reload speed, it's really expensive to get. It's like 600 crafting now, and it costs a lot to upgrade, and you can only shoot a limited amount of bullets in the mag, and I think the bullet in the mag is like it's not a big amount unless you have a purple energy mag, and still it's not that good. You can still kind of use it, and that's why I put it in C tier, but the L-Star is just not good for range. The recoil, they made the recoil harder when they nerfed the gun. So overall, the L-Star is just expensive, not very strong, and I would take any other like SMG marksman over this gun. Now next up is the triple take. Now when the triple take first came back from the care package, it used to be pretty cheap and it used to be pretty affordable, but now it costs 600 to get, and it costs like another 150 to upgrade, and it's just a bit expensive, you know. Like, probably the best guns in the game are gonna be expensive, but at least you're gonna be good. And for the triple take, I'd rather take any other marksman like the 30-30. I think the 30-30 is way better than the triple take. The triple take just costs too much. The mag size is small. It's an energy gun. I think the one thing that's good about it is the close range, because, you know, it's kind of like a shotgun. It's easy to hit close range, but still, I'd rather take any other gun than the triple take. The triple take is just expensive, kind of weak. It does like 23 damage, but you have to choke it. So it does 69, but still, it's overall not the best gun. Wouldn't recommend buying it, even in the late rounds. Wouldn't recommend it. I would maybe buy it for extra ammo, but still, it's very expensive. I'd rather probably get a Havoc if I want extra ammo. So yeah. Alright, so next up is the alternator. Now, why I put the alternator in C tier is because alternator, I think, is a pretty decent gun at the start. It's not the worst. It only costs 400. You can upgrade it for 150, so you can get it as a level 1, round 1. I think round 1, round 2, it's a pretty good gun, you know? 16 damage per shot, low recoil. Overall, it's a decent gun. I would buy the alternator in round 1. But as the rounds go on, you're gonna buy a R9. You're gonna buy a Mozambique with purple, with a hammer points. You're gonna get the RE45 with hammer points. And the alternator begins to lose its use, and I feel like it's the same in BR too. It's like you hold the alternator until you get an R9 or R301, which is kind of similar in arenas too. It's like you buy it early, but then slowly you know keep on upgrading your gun, and that's why I put the alternator in C tier, because it's not strong later rounds. It might be good at the start, but still there are better guns than the alternator at the start, you know, that you can buy. All right, so next up is the longbow, and the longbow, it has slow shooting speed. Compared to the other snipers, it's pretty fast, but I think that the 30-30 is better than the longbow. There's a lot of guns that the 30-30 is better at, and it does similar things to, like the triple take, the longbow, the bow check. You know, the longbow, it's a sniper rifle. That means it's not good close range, unless you have insane hip fire accuracy, which I don't think most people do. It's a affordable gun. It only costs 550, but I'd rather get the 30-30 because the hip fire is better. And overall, the longbow, I wouldn't really recommend using it in the later rounds. Like, I would rather use a AR over this longbow, because in the later rounds, you know, you're not going to want to buy the longbow. You're going to be wanting to buy the R301 or the flatline or something like that. And snipers overall, I don't think they're very strong in arenas, just because it's a 3v3 combat game, and you can buy a lot of heals. So if you know that they're gonna buy longbow or charge rifle, then you would buy extra heals. And I just don't think sniper rifles are that strong right now in the meta. So next up is the charge rifle. Charge rifle is definitely the most annoying gun to face against, but I think in arenas it's not very good. As I say, the snipers overall aren't good. It's bad. It's terrible for hip fire. It's terrible close range. The only thing it's good at is mid to long range, and depending on the map, the charge rifle may be a bit viable. But most likely, if the opponent just push up on you, then you're gonna have a white Mozambique to fight against a purple car or like a blue car. You're obviously gonna lose that 1v1, and that's why having a gun that's versatile, both mid-range and close range, is gonna be important. And that's why sniper rifles, they're just not the best. And I would not recommend buying the charge rifle unless you know the opponent is gonna get close range guns. So maybe you can, like, you know, slowly take their heals, but still, I wouldn't buy the charge rifle. And finally, in the C tier, we have the PK. Now, I think that the PK is a very good gun in drop-off. That's probably the only map that it's good at. And if you combine it with Gibby, it's even stronger. You know, bubble fighting with the PK is definitely strong, and it can definitely work out for you. And in a map like drop-off, hitting those 99s, very satisfying gun. I love using the PK, one of my favorite guns to use in general. But as again, it's only good at close range, and you don't want that type of gun in arenas. You want a versatile gun, a gun you can use close and long range and mid range, and the PK just doesn't do that. It's a bit expensive too. It costs 350. It's not that expensive, but as a secondary, I'd rather get a Mozambique white or just a plain Mozambique and get extra batteries, extra grenades with the 350 crafting metals. Alright, so next up is B tier. Now, B tier guns they're okay. You can use it if you want. They're definitely good guns, and if you use these guns, that's totally understandable. But B tier is a rank that it's like kind of like there's better guns than these guns, but these guns are still usable. So in B tier we have the Spitfire. Now the Spitfire is actually a pretty good gun. Like even in arenas, it does a lot of damage. Hipfire is nice. It's not that expensive, even though it does cost 600 around 600 crafting metal. I think it's still a decent gun to use, and it's definitely viable, and that's why it goes in B tier. But I feel like there are better guns, as I say, and Spitfire is an easily counterable gun if you have a high kill time gun, like I don't know, like a car or a hammer point Mozam, stuff like that would easily shred the Spitfire. And the maps that are probably good with this, it's good on any map I think, but there are better guns than this, and that's why it goes in B tier. Now next up in B tier is the 3030. Now the 3030, I've been talking about this gun all through C and D tier, saying that it's a good gun, and yeah, it's definitely a good gun. It's probably one of the best marksman weapons in the game. You can buy from round 1. I think it's one of the best guns to buy in round 1, just because no one has heals, and if you're hitting your shots, then you're going to be hitting for 42, 42, 67. You're going to be able to damage your enemy and drain all their heals. That's why it's an extremely strong gun in the early round. As you go throughout the game, the 3030 begins to lose its strengths, because people are going to be able to buy more heals, buy better guns that do more damage than the 3030. But I think it's still a very viable gun, definitely good, especially in the early rounds, and that's why I put it in B tier. Alright, so next up is the Rampage. Now the Rampage is definitely a good gun, and if you combine a thermite to it, it's easily one of the best guns in the game. But I feel like just cause it's a bit inconvenient, because you have to charge it up every single time by a thermite, and I think it's a very good gun, but the fact that you have to charge it up, I feel like there's better guns than that, because if the thermite ramp up goes down, if you don't have the ramp up on the Rampage, it's not a good gun. Like it's slow hit speed. Spitfire is easily better than the Rampage if it's close range with no thermite. It relies on the thermite a lot, but I think it's still a decent gun, especially with the thermite. With the thermite, it can shred, bro. That hip fire is insane on the Rampage. I love the Rampage a lot, but there are obviously better guns than that, better DPS guns, and that's why I put it in B tier. Now the next up is the Wingman. Now the Wingman, yeah, the Wingman is definitely a good gun if you hit your shots. I feel like you need to hit your shots in order for this gun to be good, but right now the hammer point Mozam is the better Wingman. I'm telling you, the Wingman might be good round 1, round 2, but if you can get the purple Mozam, buy it over the Wingman any day of the week. It does the same damage, but it does more if you have the hammer point Mozam, obviously. It's definitely good if you hit your shots, but I feel like it's not the best, just because the Mozam's OP, and that's why I put it in B tier. But if you hit your shots, it can definitely be a viable gun. It's definitely good with lifeline, because it's a cheap and a good gun that you can use, and you can buy the gold bag with it. So it's definitely an okay gun. That's why I put it in B tier. Not the best, could be better guns than the Wingman. Now next up is the R99. Now the reason why I put the R99 in this B tier is because it's definitely a good gun. I think it's a very satisfying gun, and that's why a lot of people use it. But the car and other SMGs are better than the R9. And the R9, it lacks range too. Like, it does 11 damage per shot, so it's not going to be very good at range. You're not going to be able to out-damage your enemies if your enemy has even a car or even a purple Mozam, It's definitely a satisfying gun, and I love using the R99, and that's why I put it in B tier. But I think overall, it's one of the weaker SMGs, weaker guns in the game. It was really good at the start, before, at the season 1, season 2, the R9 was broken. But right now, the car is better, and they're way better guns than the R9. But it's still viable, still usable. If you hit your shots, you'll be frying with that thing, and that's why I put it in B tier. Okay, finally in B tier is the Sentinel. Now, this Sentinel is... I know a lot of demons that are good with the Sentinel. Bro, they be hitting every single headshot, every single shot on me. And it's definitely a satisfying gun, that's one thing. But it's a very strong gun if you hit your shots. And if you charge it up with the cells, it can definitely be a very, very strong gun. Especially at the start of the round, it only costs 400 crafting. So it's a hella cheap gun. You can get it in the first round with the 1x and buy an extra battery with it. And if you're hitting your shots, then you're going to be draining their heals like crazy at the start. And I hate facing against the Sentinel, against a good Sentinel player, because I know they're going to drain all my heals and hit every single shot. That's why I put it in B tier. But obviously it lacks the range. It lacks the close range ability, and it needs to be versatile, and that's why I put the Sentinel in B tier. Alright, so in A tier, so there's gonna be 4 guns in the A tier. Now, at the start, it's going to be the Flatline. Now, Flatline is a very versatile gun. It's good at range, decent damage, it has an insane hit fire. That's why it's in A tier. It's pretty simple. Flatline can be used from the start of the game because it only costs 550. And it can be slowly upgraded, and it's definitely a viable gun. Definitely strong. Can counter a lot of good guns just because the hip fire is like really good. It's like an SMG hip fire, and that's why Flatline goes in A tier. Now, second up in A tier is the car. Now the car, it hits, bro. That gun hits like crazy. That gun can hit for like 160 if you're up close and if you hit your shots. Like, if you have a good angle on the enemy up close, you're not going to lose your 1v1. I think it even could be better than the Mozambique if you do hit your shots. And that's why it goes in A tier. It's an SMG, so it's not very good, like, long range. But still, the car is extremely good. You just go up to the enemy and it's such a one-clippable gun. Like, it's insane. Alright, and next up in A tier is the RE45 with hammer points. Now, this gun is by far the most broken gun in the game under the Mozambique hammer points. Like, the RE45 is so cheap. It's like 900 crafting, maybe like 1,000 crafting. And that gun can shred, bro. That gun's like I think it's like an R9 but better with the hammer points. And I see a lot of people running it. It shreds. It's just, I don't know what to say except that it shreds. It's just insane gun. Even though it does 16 damage per shot for shield, it can go up insanely fast if you hit them for flesh. And that's why I like to combine it with some guns that can hit hard and then go into my RE45 and finish it off. And that's why I put the RE45 in A tier. Now next up is the Havoc. Now yeah, bro, the Havoc is crazy. The Havoc with the turbocharger can hit really hard. It can definitely fry. And if you I wouldn't recommend buying it without a turbocharger just because having the turbocharger changes everything because you don't have that ramp up time. But still, it's crazy. The hip fire speed is insane. A lot of ammo in your mag. Hip fire accuracy is good. Does a lot of damage. Good even when ADS has decent range, and that's why it goes in A tier. Now, last up in A tier is the Prowler. Now, the Prowler is a insane gun up close. Like, you can buy it from round 1. Get it with a white, so it's a very cheap SMG. That's why it's like a very strong SMG. It does a lot of damage if you hit your shots. And I think it's a decent secondary even in the later rounds. Having a white Prowler can be a game changer just because the Prowler hits like crazy. Like, if you connect your shots, you connect your shots. I know some people that are bad with burst weapons, but I think burst weapons, if you hit your shots, they are crazy good and they can shred through your armor, shred through your entire team actually, especially in the early round. And that's why the Prowler goes in A tier. Alright, so in S tier. Now these are the guns that you need to be using. If you're not using these guns, I highly recommend you do, because these guns will be a game changer. Now the R301. Bro, the R301 is the best AR in the game. It is so good from range. It's even a blue R301 with the 2x. That thing can shred. That gun is incredible. It's good close range, good mid range, good long range. It's a affordable gun. In the probably like round 3s and 4, it's probably the best at, because a lot of people are going to be running the 301. It has a low recoil. That means it's easy to use. Anyone can use the 301. Anyone can beam with the R301. Hip fire is insane. That's why it's S tier. It's pretty simple why the R301 is an S tier. Next up is the Devo. Now, Devo is the most broken gun in the game. Like, if you buy this gun, you will not lose your 1v1. Like, if you're up close with the Devo and hip firing or even ADSing, you will not miss a single shot. Your bullets will, like, be sucked into the enemy and it'll just beam. That's just how good it is. It's got 48 ammo. Buy with the turbocharger. Don't buy without the turbocharger or else it's really weak. I recommend buying in the later round just because having materials for heals and nades is important. But in the later rounds, the best gun in the game by far. It's incredible. Even in mid range, if you can learn the recoil, it can definitely hit for a decent amount at range. Now next up is the Mozambique with the hammer points. Now this gun is the best gun in the game. #1 gun. I think this is the best gun in arenas right now. It does so much damage. 45, 60s if you can consistently hit. It can shred through purple armor easily if you hit your shots. It's cheap. Like, that's how can the best gun in the game be only 1,000 or even less crafting medals? Like, that's just broken. Like, you can get it from round 2, round 3. It is crazy good, bro. It is actually crazy good. That's why the Mozambique goes in S tier. There's nothing to explain really. If you have used the Mozambique with hammer points, you know how good it is. You know how it can shred your armors, and that's why it goes in S. Now this next one, this might be a bit controversial, but I think it's the Hemlock. The Hemlock, you can get it from round 1, round 2, round 3. I think the Hemlock is a very, very strong gun. It has a lot of range. The hip fire isn't bad. Like, I like burst weapons because you can do a lot of damage with just one burst. It can hit someone for like 51 with one burst, and the reason why I like it is because it's also cheap. It's only costs 450 at base, and you can upgrade it for 150, 250. And I think getting the Hemlock with like level 2 with the bruiser, it's really good. It's cheap, and that's why I like it. And cheapness is important in arenas because you want to prioritize getting those heals, getting those grenades, stuff like that, getting a better secondary, etc, etc. That's why I think the Hemlock is cheap, strong, does a lot of damage, hip fire is nice, range is good, a lot of good things about the Hemlock, and that's why it belongs in S tier. Now that finishes the gun guide. I know it was a bit long, but if you guys did watch until the end, thank you so much for watching this video and watching the support. You guys have been giving me so much support over the past few days, and I really, really do appreciate it. So click that like button, subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.